the Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network presents Worldview Media Podcast, where Gordon and Joyce Runyon view popular media through the lens of the biblical five-point covenant model to help believers appreciate and apply principles of exciting narrative and engaging storytelling.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of the Worldview Media Podcast. I am your co-host, Gordon Runyon, coming to you from Studio One.
Studio One?
In Paradise. Tucumcari, New Mexico.
That's a new one.
Joining me in the studio today are the woman who is my number one wayfinder, Miss Joyce.
Hello. There are 3 people listening.
And in addition to that, there are the 2 young ladies who are often mistaken for coconut pirates.
Oh, great.
My daughters Jordan and Reagan. Hello, ladies.
Hello. Hello.
All right, you're looking for one more listener.
Being optimistic.
Good deal. Okay, so this is Reconstructionist Radio. We are happy to be part of that network. I just thought of a cool tagline. Reconstructionist Radio Network, your one-stop shop for all your dominionizing needs. How about that?
Okay. Dominionizing.
Dominionizing.
It's interesting.
You might try and pitch it.
Yeah, I just trademarked dominionizing. Anybody who ever says that from now on owes me a nickel each time. Dominionizing.
I don't think you have to worry about it.
Oh.
All right, so savage. All right, we are here to discuss the Walt Disney epic cartoon Moana.
Animated feature.
Epic animated feature cartoon. And so my question to you is, as you watch this movie, could you smell what The Rock was cooking?
Yes.
I was thinking, did he cook? What?
Like, were we picking up what he was putting down? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, don't tell me I have to tell you about The Rock.
Uh-oh.
That's his tagline.
Wrestling.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he says. Can you smell?
Jordan cannot, though, so...
No, I really can't.
I was just going to say, she can really say no.
I couldn't anyway.
All right. So we're talking about Moana. I have a feeling there are going to be bad things that we say about the movie eventually, or at least that I will. But tell me some good things, overall things, or something like that. What are your impressions of this?
I thought the animation was really good, just from a visual.
Yeah, I think that's right.
The animation was super good, and there's this scene at the beginning where she's a little girl, and she's by the ocean by herself. She's on the beach by herself, and they have these really cool... it's just a really neat scene because the water's flipping in all sorts of ways.
Right.
And
Kind of playing with her.
Yeah, I thought that was really a cool scene to watch. And then I liked the music, except for one song, but...
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, nobody liked that song, so...
Yeah.
The music kind of is a callback to another show that we did here a few weeks ago when we talked about Hamilton, because the music here was from Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah, that's true.
And
He was part of the team.
yeah, and some of the music kind of had a Hamilton
Yeah, no, it's
vibe.
really...
Yeah,
A
for sure.
Miranda vibe.
Yeah, Miranda.
Yeah,
vibe.
it had a real Lin-Manuel Miranda
There are little
thing.
things that happen throughout the songs
Weird
that I'm
ways
like,
that
hey.
you could, musical phrasings and
Yeah,
stuff that you're like,
exactly.
there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that Your Welcome song sounded very much like it could have been sung on Hamilton.
Well, except it wouldn't fit at all. But
It wouldn't have been historically accurate.
okay, you're welcome.
Okay, well, I really thought animation-wise, now that you bring that up, I felt like the backgrounds were really well done in terms of when they were supposed to be on an island that was like paradise. Man, it really did look like, wow, I'd like to live there. You know, it was that kind of...
And I remember, when Beauty and the Beast came out, and it was just, the animation was fantastic on that, and it's stepped it up even more. Where if I would go back and look at Beauty and the Beast now, I'd be like, oh, well, yeah, maybe this was nice, but it's really much
They keep
improved.
up in their game.
Yeah.
One place where I thought that was evident was that scene you were talking about where Moana was a toddler. Mm-hmm. And the only way you could tell she was a toddler really is by the way she was walking. Mm-hmm. And she walked like a toddler.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see.
With her little feet all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Jordan.
I was, sometimes in a cartoon, everybody's got a big head and big eyes. And it's not obvious right away how old they are. And so in that first scene where you've got all the kids gathered around, I don't think it was obvious how old all the kids were supposed to be, but then her walking on the beach, it's unmistakable. Wow, that's a toddler walking.
Yeah.
So that was some really good artwork there. There was, like I say, it was unmistakable. So I felt like that was a good job. On the other hand, there was a place where she holds up her foot, and it looked like the foot of a duck. It's just
it was a little
gigantic
wide
foot.
That just might have been her foot.
Like,
she could have had a little
did
wide
we
foot.
just warp into the Hobbit or something?
Feet are peculiar things, and they are
Let's
for
not
certain
talk
people.
about it.
Is this
Go down that path.
is this a racist thing where we're saying Samoans have these
No,
trash can
I'm just-
lids for feet?
I didn't say that. I just said feet.
I just say we
I
shouldn't
have
talk about
seen some
feet. I don't like feet. Let's not talk about that.
Your dad brought it up. I'm just saying.
Okay,
Feet are varied.
Let's talk some more about the story. Now, in the story, the plot is that the world is basically coming to an end, and Moana is the girl who is chosen by the ocean to basically reverse the damage and fix nature. And so she has to head out on a boat by herself to try to get this quest done. A fairly basic storyline, the quest is pretty classic. And a couple of things that we're going to talk about it when we get to the worldview stuff, so I don't want to
Give it away.
preempt that right now.
Well,
But
then this is also, what is this like? These are real stories that have been passed down pretty much. This is like.
This is culture.
Yeah, this is their culture, and
Well,
this is kind
there
of
are
like
real characters. I
Well,
think
yeah,
they made up
but
the story.
oh, you're saying this is based on like traditional?
Well, see,
That-
you
that was
missed.
my
Yeah, you missed some of that
impression.
stuff. We watched some of the special features, but if we're just going to talk about the movie as a whole, I think it's a good movie. I'll probably see it again. It's got fun music. The animation's good. I like the characters. There's probably, I'm thinking of one character in particular I really didn't care for.
yeah, me too.
But overall, it's a solid story. Now, we'll get into worldview and perspectives and things
right.
like that later, and probably I wouldn't agree with some of those things, but I think you have to remember that these are stories,
Right.
Yeah, right.
and stories aren't necessarily about, this is really how things happened, or this is how things should be, or things like that. But it's a story, and I think it's a fun story.
Okay, so and the story apparently is based on like Pacific Island mythologies. Is that what
Yes.
you're saying?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
but just from a storytelling standpoint, there were a few scenes, and a couple of them seemed extended, that I don't feel like they advanced the plot really at all.
Yeah.
And that whole thing with the coconut pirates. I thought it was...
So irrelevant. Are you calling me and Jordan irrelevant?
I think you did that.
No, I'm saying you don't advance the plot.
No, that's true.
Irrelevant.
No, but just seriously, here comes these pirate ships filled with coconuts who are the pirates, and I was
Well-
willing to accept it when it happened, just as kind of a cute feature. They
Yeah.
were kind of funny. It reminded me of watching Ewoks in Star Wars trying to wage war and stuff. And,
Yeah.
and I could see, all right, that's kind of funny. Coconuts walking around trying to be bad guys.
Well, I
and
don't know
stuff.
if they were really coconuts. I think they had the coconut
Look.
gear.
Oh,
You know, I think there was something underneath there, but I don't think.
you thought
You
they
don't
were
think it
little
was really
tiny
a coconut?
Well, I
thought
don't
they were
know.
coconuts.
I looked
Coconuts
up the
don't
little
have
creature
legs.
that they were talking about, and it just said that it was this tiny little short
Coconut?
troublemaker guy, but that they were hairy. And I was like, well, maybe they just interpreted the animators that to mean like, oh, what if they were hairy like a coconut is hairy, you know?
Well, they show up in the movie as walking coconuts. I mean, that's what they look like. And
Well, okay.
but I'm saying I was willing to go along with that and accept it as just kind of a cute little feature. But they have the incident with the coconut pirates, and then they just go on from there, and you never hear anything else about them. And the
Well,
incident doesn't do
I
anything.
think that after that incident, that Maui kind of changes his perspective of who this little girl is that he's stuck with on a boat.
Okay, so Maui is a
Demigod.
demigod who's kind of mischievous and irresponsible. And you have Moana, who is the girl. And they said that in Hawaiian, Moana means of the ocean or from the ocean.
Yeah.
Okay. So that scene irritated me a little bit just when I saw there was no circling back to it. There was no payoff, really, for me anyway. And then the scene with the crab guy, we may talk some more about that. It seemed
Excessive.
It seemed weird, like out of
excessive.
place almost.
Yeah, right. A different movie almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the song,
song-
doesn't really match the other songs, just
Yeah.
sort of aesthetically. Like, it's not it doesn't really fit somehow.
Well, and here's another question that I want to ask you. Is there any sense, did you get any sense watching it where it felt like whoever made this movie was not just making a movie, but was anticipating how this movie would then be adapted in like Disney World? And how you could make shows in Disney World, or because it kind of seemed like that with the crab guy. He goes kind of black lit, almost, you know, how things show up under a black light. And he's got that whole kind of thing going on, and I could almost see a show at Disneyland doing that, where in the middle of the show it goes dark. And
Well, if they pick him for the show, I think that's just bad taste. There's a lot of other things you could
he
do.
wasn't
that
a
would be
great
better.
character, and
Yeah.
the song was weird, and the whole scene was goofy.
yeah.
I don't know, but I think that that probably is a factor in, you know, I don't know if that's like specifically, so there's someone who has a job to do that, but I'm sure that they think about those things and think about how we can tie this in and what we can market and what's
Right.
going to make a good toy.
It's all about the merch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the chicken, I mean, the chicken is kind of an odd fit,
They're
too.
going to be
for that.
selling chickens. Like
I know,
that, like,
but I mean, that doesn't really seem
Chickens
like,
left and right.
you know, the little pig, Pua, I can see.
Oh, that's a cute little pig. It
I
makes
was
me
kind
think
of disappointed that they decided to go with Hey Hey for the
Yeah, I thought
tag-along
for
character,
sure, as we were
as
like
opposed
watching
to-
her on the
Well,
island and
that's
stuff,
because
that she
Pua
would
is
bring
smarter than the
pig.
chicken.
Yeah,
And
but
he's already been out there and he
maybe
said,
they
"No,
were
thank
trying
you."
to change it up a little bit, you know. Maybe that's why they decided to do that.
I
because
have
would've
met
personally-
actual people that I think are that stupid. Where you,
want to put him underneath in a box.
well, where after you talk to them, you walk away thinking, how have you survived on the planet this long? When, I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
I could tell some stories. I won't do it here, but
that's another podcast.
yeah, right.
That's later today.
Okay. Any other kind of overall impressions to talk about here?
So, Jordan, what did you think about the movie overall?
I thought it was. I would probably say that it's a cute movie. I don't know if it's a great movie, but it's fun. It's kind of cute, and the animation is good, and the music is fun, and you know it's got good points and stuff. And that stupid chicken is pretty funny sometimes. but I mean, I might give it like a high B or like an A minus or something.
Wow, that high. Okay.
I liked it better than Frozen.
I think it a little bit kind of depends on what you're comparing it to. If it's just an isolated movie that you then compare with all other movies, I think it probably doesn't work very well. But if it's a Disney cartoon to compare with other Disney cartoons, I feel like it holds up pretty well.
Yeah.
Like I say, some of the animation is really slick.
Yeah, as far as Disney, it's a pretty good showing for Disney, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
All right, anything else before we hit our break?
Anything? All right.
All right, I'm calling it. Here's our break.
The Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network brings to you a complete lineup of podcasts where you will hear practical and tactical theology. Our desire is not simply that you consume our shows, but that you also live out your faith in every area of life. We can talk all day long about these things, but if we fail to put them into practice, then we fail as ambassadors of Jesus Christ, our King. Subscribe now to your favorite Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network shows, or you can subscribe to the Reconstructionist Radio Master Feed, where all of the content we produce, including the audiobooks and audio articles, will pop up as soon as they are available. And don't forget to visit reconstructionistradio.com to volunteer as a narrator or to partner with this ministry financially. May the Holy Spirit stir you into action for Christ and His kingdom.
Okay, we're back. Another masterful segue.
Here on the Worldview Media Podcast.
I got a ration during that commercial for bad segue into commercial. I don't know. I need suggestions.
Reagan.
Do I go and commercial?
That was much smoother. Smooth.
It was a little bit more exciting. It had some build up.
The whole time I'm going, and you're like, oh no, what's
No, you just gotta say and then that's it. That's it. Then commercial.
The commercial just shows up.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even say commercial.
No.
So it's just and then you hear the
And then some crickets.
or you can yell, and now a word from our, that kind of thing.
Oh, right. All right. All right.
Next time you have to do it.
Well, now we are...
Well, but I don't know what exactly...
Okay, it's worldview time. Worldview time.
Okay.
Okay, what we like to do is take the things that we watch and kind of try to apply a 5-point series of questions to it that reflect the biblical covenant. The first point is transcendence, where we talk about... This is where, in terms of fiction, we're going to talk a lot about thematic, ultimate realities and who's in this story that we're watching, who's calling the shots, and how do all these things fit together. So, transcendence in Moana. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's really obvious that it's a polytheistic view. It's talking about what these islanders believed in their culture, and that's what it was.
Yeah. Totally, thoroughly pagan in terms of, just like what you said. Not just polytheism, but the pagan idea that all being is one. And that there's a oneness of being, from the bacteria that lives inside your toilet bowl to the gods themselves. It's really a oneness of being. And the only difference is circumstances and abilities and levels of power and stuff like that, but it's all of one. And I think what that results in the movie then is you have gods who need help, and you have gods who are fickle and petty and basically afflicted with all the infirmities of humanity, because
Well, and those things are even magnified because, like with Maui being in a demigod stature. So
his power allows him to be more of a fallen human than just a regular fallen human.
Right.
And that's kind of common to all pagan religions. The book that I'd recommend for this, if that's kind of an interesting concept to you, is Gary North's commentary on Exodus, where he talks about power religion versus dominion religion, and Moses versus Pharaoh, and how the Egyptians had this oneness of being idea. And it was pretty radical then for Moses to come along and proclaim a God who is nothing like anything that's here, and he's transcendent. And so really the transcendence in Moana, there is none. There are just beings with more or less power. And kind of like the gun law, where he who has the gun makes the laws. Here it's a power law. Whoever's most powerful gets to call the shots. But one thing that struck me over and over again is the whole plot is about the creator now needs help from the creation, and specifically from this young girl.
Yeah.
The creator has become something, well, we find out at the end, the creator has become tyrannical and dangerous and evil and destroying everything just for the sake of destroying it, like temper tantrum. And we need this pure soul in the form of Moana to come along and remind the creator of who she is, and thoroughly pagan, kind of like you mentioned, polytheistic, but also oneness of being. So that's what's being preached. I'm kind of interested to hear. Like you say, I didn't hear that this is based on actual Polynesian mythology or something like that. And then it's sad to realize that a lot of the Christian missionaries, we're hearing now from Apologia Radio, who's Apologia Church is starting a church in Hawaii, on Kauai, I think. And part of their research into the culture has turned up some interesting stuff. Like at the time, America kind of basically forced Hawaii into the Union. Christian missionaries, the gospel had found a great deal of success in Hawaii. And so the last princess of Hawaii was a born-again believer and wanted Hawaii to be this independent nation that served Christ. And it was a thoroughly kind of Christianized place until America got a hold of it. Right? America. Right. The story that we saw in Moana is sad because of how pagan it is, and exalting paganism as something good and wonderful. And, like with Grandma being reincarnated as this kind of light.
a stingray.
Stingray made of light or something like that, that this is all good and wonderful. And I just thought it's kind of sad when you realize what Hawaii had going in the last century. And now this is what we're remembering and preaching. It kind of makes me sad. Okay, so point 2 of the covenant is representation. Is there a character or characters who most kind of embody the transcendent concept? And I'd say precisely because of the oneness of being, every character is representing that. Do you agree? Or what are your thoughts?
Well, if you're going to really look at it, I think the grandma has to be that one because, she's actually that physical presence that's telling the kids all these stories and keeping these stories alive. And this is what's happened. This is why we're here. And this is how these things are resolved. And she's that force that's pushing Moana to go and do these things because I think on her own, Moana, she wouldn't have done that. Her grandma's dying. Her dad's after her not to be going off and doing things. And she's wanting to be the the responsible girl and do what her father wants, but her grandma's saying, you need to go and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she goes, her grandma dies, and the stingray comes out kind of to say, you're doing the right thing. So for me, I see really the grandmother being more of that character, even though she's a minimal character, because she comes back again at the end when she's in another tough place.
Yeah.
Do I just call it quits and try to get back home? What do I do now? I'm all alone.
Yeah. It's like the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi
Yeah.
showing up at
Coming
the
back
end.
all glowy and blue.
Right. Yeah.
Glowy Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan glowy.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this? I think that's obviously right. I think this message is preached through all the characters, but Grandma really is the preacher of it.
You know, she
In a
shows
literal
her
sense.
the boats. She
Right.
shows her the enticement of the water. You know,
She's the revelator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the third point of the covenant is ethics, and we like to ask the question about how do our characters meet up with significant moral crisis? They have choices to make that are going to move the plot one way or another, and what's the deciding factor, and how do they choose?
Anything?
Why is everybody looking at me?
Do you have a moral crisis, Reagan?
Well,
Well, the big one is, you know, Grandma's always been saying this darkness is coming and everything's dying, but you don't really see that on the island until one day, you know, there's no more fish, the coconuts are going bad, and what are we going to do? And, you know, the dad is still, he's the chief, and he's like, well, we'll just have to deal with it, and we're going to stay here, and that's just the way it is. You know, and so he looks to this little girl like, well, all right, what would you do? Well, okay, I guess we need to put the fish somewhere else, or we need to cut down the bad coconut trees and grow some new coconut trees, and trying to stay within the parameters that her dad has said, this is how we live. And so, you know, that was a crisis. What do they do? Everything's kind of starting to, paradise is going bad. What do you do then?
yeah, you have to launch out. And so the ethical crisis there for Moana is, who do I obey? And do I obey my father? Do I obey my grandmother? And Grandma's telling me I need to obey the voices inside my own head. And if you
The
hear
water
that
that
inner
calls her.
voice, yeah, the water is an entity. The ocean is an entity that is calling her and urging her. And what will she do? And of course, she makes the right decision and defies her father and goes out and saves the world. And kind of it's a pretty common Disney message. It's almost like a trope, right? Where the princess to be has to grow up and figure things out for herself, and her dad's holding her back and doesn't want her to be and do, and she has to get that figured out. You know, so, wow, that's Frozen and what, some other things.
No, because their parents died.
Yeah, their parents should have.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of
Too soon.
But I mean, that is a fairly common sort of Disney concept, and the whole follow your heart thing. It's so aggravating.
Okay. Well, but on the flip side, if we were to look at this in a different way,
In a different light.
you know, you have Abraham being called out of the land that he was from, what he knew, leaving everything behind and going out and doing what he was supposed to do.
Right. And I think that, like, as Christians, we have those. I mean, the ocean isn't calling us to do anything, but, you know, like, there is a sense in which we do have a part to play
Right.
in the world, and we do have our callings and things that we are called to do. And
Right.
that's the problem, is that that's being turned into, oh, that's you telling yourself that, and that's what you feel. And you have to realize that that's that's God telling you, that's God giving you a gift, you know.
Yeah, right.
And that kind of gets really rainbow unicorny.
Well, and there does come a sense in which yes, the fifth commandment does say to honor your father and your mother, and there's a sense in which if you're not doing that, then it's an offense against God himself because your parents represent God to you in the family. But there really does come a time when your parents can go wrong and try to keep you from obeying God. And,
Right.
that's a real thing as well. And hopefully nobody's in that situation, but some
Yeah.
people are where it's
Well,
not.
and eventually, I think a healthy family, your children are going to leave.
Absolutely. But this
And-
was a young teenage girl.
Well, yeah, but
Right.
I mean that's part of the process of growing up is that you leave. We have two girls that have left and gone off to college and gone farther, and Reagan's getting ready to get up and go to college, even though that may not be what she really wants to do. But it's a process of being able to step out and continue on your own, and hopefully, as Christian parents and Christian families, you're setting them out on the right way to go and do those things they're supposed to do. So, yeah, maybe Moana, she's probably not with that in mind, but I can see that and say, yeah, there comes a time when you have to go out, and sometimes your parents are not ready for that.
Right.
And you need to do what you need to do.
Yeah, it does take a lot of discernment. There can be times when your parents are legitimately holding you back from following what God has told you to do, but there's also the sense that until you're out from underneath their legitimate authority, you honor God by obeying them.
Yeah.
Well, there is that scene where her mom kind of gives her the go ahead and is like, "Yeah, you should go.
Take
and you
these
need
things
to do
with you.
this." So like,
Get out while you can.
and then like within the world of the story, if she hadn't gone, that would have been the wrong thing to do.
Oh, sure. Right.
So like, just
Because she's the hero. She has to get it right. Yeah.
Well, but if you pull it back even farther, then God is in control always and sovereign. And so
Yeah.
where even it may seem like someone who's outside of the faith and saying, well, I have to go off and do this, still God uses that person for whatever his will is to accomplish those purposes. And you just have to, again, this is an animated feature.
Yeah.
But I think there's some concepts in here that are worthwhile to look at and
Talk
to
about
say,
them. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think what you're pointing out is that as Christians, we do believe there are legitimate authorities over us. Mm-hmm. And the Bible tells us to have an attitude of submission toward legitimate authorities. But there's no legitimate authority over us that is a plenary authority with all power. And even the legitimate authorities over us are limited. And finding that balance does take a lot of discernment, and it takes a lot of being in the Word and being willing to follow the Holy Spirit speaking through the Word and all of that. You do need to be careful when you disobey an authority legitimately over you, and you should strive to obey legitimate authority, but that doesn't mean they get to do whatever the heck they want, and that's just true in every sphere of life. Okay, so I don't think I am just upset about the fact that Disney and Pixar and all those kinds of studios that are making movies for children, it's a common theme that for things to go right, the children have to disobey their parents at some point. Now, some may be more or less warranted and all of that. I just think that irritates me as a common theme. Any other moral quandaries? I think you mentioned one where Moana eventually comes to maybe believe that she's failed and the whole mission is down the drain. And there is a little bit of a quandary about now what do I do? And do I just quit? Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that?
I think you should just quit.
That's what I always say. That's my mentality.
I come from a long line of quitters. Yeah, that's tough, but everybody kind of gets to that point, whether it's just in life in general or in a specific situation. It feels like it's failed, and now what do you do?
Well, and again, it comes to what is your hope and your faith in?
Exactly.
That's going to
what are you believing
continue to make you go whichever way you go.
in? What called you to that project in the first place?
Yeah.
That's really got to be the issue.
Right.
So another interesting character for me is Maui, and he's a whole bunch of ethical stuff going on with him.
Right.
He's a fun character, he's kind of makes you laugh, but for me, he's a demigod who has no power, and yet he did everything for everybody and can't do anything for himself.
Starved for love. Yeah, right.
Well, he's stuck on an island. But yet he pulled all the islands up out of the ocean. He gave them.
But when he had his magic fish hook, he could do all that stuff. He didn't have his hook when he was stuck there, so he's just a guy.
So he's just plain old strong guy. And then even his backstory is kind of sad that his parents, his mother didn't want him.
Abandoned by his parents.
Threw him into the ocean, and he was rescued by the gods to then do stuff for humanity. So
you wind up with this demigod who's basically got mommy and daddy issues, and kind of goes back to that whole oneness of being thing. The only thing that makes him a demigod is the fact that he
Has a hook.
got powers from somewhere. Yeah, can do special things. Interesting. Any other moral dilemmas? What were we going to say about the crab?
Oh, he's just weird. I don't know. It was just.
Yeah. I feel like the intention was that, like, Moana's been, her grandma's telling her about, like, how you gotta listen to who you are on the inside and know all this stuff, and the crab is sort of like, you gotta pay attention to what's on the outside, you gotta be all pretty and stuff, and, like, I feel like that's the idea, to make him be, like, the opposite thing or something.
He's very materialistic.
Yeah. But it's weird. It's a weird little thing.
Yeah, it is. I don't even understand that.
Well, and I think there was a tie back into the story at the very beginning with the monsters that were shown, and I think one of them might have been the crab, but, it was a very primitive little drawing, but it seemed like they were kind of the same, where you have the destruction monster over here, and then the crab monster over here, and maybe it's about excesses.
Interesting.
I don't know, but that was just a whole odd little segment.
Yeah.
Just seemed out of place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure did. Okay, so point 4 of the covenant is sanctions, and we begin to ask, do our characters get what they deserve? Not in terms of maybe the real world, but in terms of how that created fictional world, in terms of how that operates. Do they get consistency? Do their actions get what they ought to get, given the rules in their world? What about Moana?
Probably. I mean,
she accomplished what she
yeah,
set out
she
to
goes
do.
out and does this whole thing and saves the world, and then it works out pretty good for her after that. So probably so.
Okay. Yeah, she kind of does get rewarded as... I thought it was interesting, though. Her rewards seemed to be just like being comfortable in her own skin. And
Well, then she got to travel, too, like the whole island.
Yeah, she
it
got
did
to bring
change
that
the
back
whole
to her
culture.
people and
Yeah.
stuff.
Went back to being.
But she could embrace everything that she used to just kind of wonder if that was good for her to feel these ways and stuff like that. So, and it did wind up kind of changing their whole society.
Yeah.
Their whole deal.
Their whole deal. It was changed.
You're just out there changing the deal.
Okay.
Maui got a good hook again, so
Yeah.
I guess he was all right. He pulled through. He was okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he overcame.
Almost self-sacrificing.
Almost. And yet.
And the creator God realized she didn't need to be
Angry.
angry.
Well,
and
she got her heart back.
destructive.
Yeah, she got her heart
She
back.
got her heart
She
back.
had a piece
She got her
of her
center
missing.
back. Her center.
is the thing, is that
Right.
that she had been like a
Yeah, it was interesting.
Undone.
Right, she'd been undone because she was missing a little jewel, and that's one of the kind of constants in the show is how frail and fragile the gods and demigods were. That they could be undone by little things like that, and they needed help from the creation and stuff. So that was a pretty common occurrence. Succession. What's it look like is going to take place in the future because of this story?
They're going to travel.
Yeah, they're going to be
They're gonna see
voyagers
the world.
again.
Whole new society, right? Moana's people used to be seafaring and explorers and voyagers, and then they found the one island that was really nice, and they just kind of contracted and got stuck there. And
Sound familiar?
Was this island ever really nice?
Why do you live here?
I can't answer that question.
or are we talking about Tupac?
Oh, wait. No, it was the island.
Oh, sorry.
You just said they got stuck.
Couldn't leave. It just rung a bell. I don't know.
Well, I saw a little parable of churches in that. Some studies have been done that, in the church planting phase before a congregation decides to buy a building or build a building, that they're kind of characterized like rabbits, where they're just moving very quickly and never in one place, and they're reproducing like rabbits and stuff like that. But you get it seems to be an occurrence that when a rabbit church gets a building and begins to be respectable, and then it becomes more like an elephant that just kind of, it's fat and sucking up resources and just kind of
Lumbering along.
Yeah, lumbering, not being able to do anything very quickly, and
Just one baby every 2 years.
right, there you go. Yeah, not reproducing quickly, and it's amazing that it does kind of seem to center in the building, but that dynamic is the same, that when the churches are rabbits, they're on the move and they're looking for new targets and new places to go and bring their message, and then they find a nice place and everything kind of contracts and becomes about living in that place, and they lose who they were, and I'm not sure how you get that back. Sell the building, dissolve it, So I kind of saw a parable in that there was a good thing, that this kind of introverted, scared, timid community was kind of willing at the end of the movie
Was freed to
go beyond the barrier reef
Yeah.
and explore the world. So for me, that was a good message. That was a decent thing in there. Hard to separate it from the paganism and all that. But
had to stretch, but you found it.
yeah, I thought that was a good lesson. All right, anything else to say about this?
I thought watching the extras on our DVD, it gave more background about how they came to develop this movie, and I think that they really were looking more at trying to be culturally accurate with how these people live, and even to some extent still live today, the importance of the coconut to them and why it was so important, and just the traveling and navigating that they did in that area, and how incredible it is that they did that, finding all these islands in the middle of the ocean, and that they really did actually stop exploring for about 1,000 years, I
Yeah.
think they said, and then picked it up and started doing it again. And so they had a lot of input from the peoples in those areas in the development of the characters and in the traditional dress and in all the things that they did. And it just was interesting for me that Disney went to that length to do that, because I don't think they've done that with anything else. I'm thinking of Pocahontas.
Oh, right.
And, they told a story that I don't think they spent time with any Indian groups talking about, what was going on.
Or with the history book.
Yeah. And so there really was some type of concerted effort that we want to represent this in
Accurately.
as close a light as we can, and know that, yeah, we may not know exactly what they wore or what they did, but we want to try to be true to, how they danced and the singing and the songs, and even now that music is still important to them as a people today, and that they're doing all this stuff in their churches. On their islands. And so, they were in that pagan place, and a lot of them are not still in that pagan place, but that's where they came from, and that's their culture. Yeah. And so that they were saying, this is where we have come from. And I think that was part of the story too, is that you have to know where you've come from and able to keep on going forward.
Right.
And especially as a Christian, you have to know what you've been saved from then to go forward and realize the freedom that you walk in now, and share that with the people around you, and changing the community where you are. And so there were some really interesting things there that you had already quit. But I thought I wanted to say that so that there would be some redeeming points to this story for you.
Well, I wonder, you are right. That's an unusual thing. And I think Pocahontas is a classic example where they didn't take that care to be historically accurate or culturally accurate. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wonder, is that because to be culturally and historically accurate in the Pocahontas story would have been very pro-Christianity and pro-European, even pro-white guys, and so it was a no-brainer move to completely turn that history on its head and make a movie that's basically exalting paganism. On the other hand, now you have this story that is pagan, and you don't need to change it to make it that way. I kind of wonder if that isn't part of the motivation, or is this a trend that now they've decided?
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see
what their
next products are coming out. But it was just
like there is a lot more of a sort of consciousness about not misrepresenting people groups now than
especially
there was
minority
in the 90s.
groups.
When Pocahontas and stuff was being developed and all this, I feel like people, especially people in big corporations like Disney, are much more sort of conscious about like how
you go about those things.
How you go about talking about people from cultures that you don't understand, and
this was extensive. I mean, they met with these groups 3, 4, a lot.
A bunch of times.
Where they were going to the islands.
But they still drew their feet huge.
And then they were coming back to Disney too and reviewing things and saying, no, this character isn't right. Like with Maui, for instance, he was supposed to be bald because the character's bald. And they said, oh, no, you can't have Maui bald because that's not who he is. He's supposed to be this guy with the big hair. And but I thought that was really interesting. And so it'll be kind of interesting to see where Disney goes from here with other ventures that they're looking at.
Yep. All right, you guys, I think we're about done. My encouragement to our audience, as always, I know somewhere among the dozen of people that are listening,
Four
this time,
that there are people listening with God-given creative talents, and go and use your talents and dominionize.
Wait, what was you saying?
Your one-stop shop.
Reconstructionist Radio is your one-stop dominionizing shop. How about that? Or for all your dominionizing needs.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So even you creative folks.
You can come up with something better.
Fax them in.
And that's better.
There was
That's
silence.
gold. That's top shelf.
So high, no one can reach it.
All right. That's where we hide stuff, is on the top shelf. All right. See y'all. God bless you.
Bye.
Say goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Worldview Media Podcast. Please visit reconstructionistradio.com to check out the other podcasts in our network and to download our free audiobooks.